My everyday carry has looked more or less like this for the past 3 or 4 years, but as someone who is a fan of minimizing pocket bulk as much as I can, I thought it'd be fun to try and make a truly functional EDC inside of something as small as this. These tins are iconic. I mean, Altoids peppermints first came out in 1870. But first, if I were to just load some everyday carry stuff in this tin, I don't know, Mini Civivi Elementum, Nightcore Tiny 3, Uncle Bill's tweezers, whatever, putting this in my pocket will turn me into a walking tambourine. And so my first goal is for it to be as silent as possible, and with my full kit fully loaded out, giving it a shake, you can hear it's much quieter compared to that first nightmare. So without further ado, let's pop an empty one open and see how I've chosen to load out my version of a complete Altoids tin everyday carry. First, backup emergency cache, or using this sort of like a wallet, we'll get a folded bill and get it into the bottom left corner. Next, to keep it from moving around or accidentally falling out, I just pop this disc magnet out the back of a fridge clip magnet, and because it's circular, tucks neatly into that bottom corner radius of our Altoids tin, and by the way, this magnet will become very important later too. Next up, for the everyday carry pocket knife, I'm actually skipping a dedicated knife and instead going with this. The SOG PowerPint Multitool, which as you can see, beyond its multitude of other tools, does indeed have a knife. In fact, it's technically got 18 tools, but I would argue that most useful, at least for me, are the standard knife, the scissors, and the needle nose pliers. Now, although when not in use it gets tucked up top with a pocket clip up and away, one feature of the PowerPint is the other reason for that disc magnet. You see, as you close the PowerPint up, you'll notice as these semicircles start to meet, turning the end up, they come together to form a 1/4-inch hex bit holder. And so whether it's for work, a specific hobby, or to have a few of the most common hex bits for general repairs, this magnet will securely anchor 3 bits. Now, when there's a need, we can take the right bit, get it into the end of the PowerPint, and get a very confident purchase and strong near full-sized working grip on it. Awesome. And again, that disc magnet holds those 3 bits very well and is a huge part of why this kit is relatively silent in pocket. If you're curious, by the way, the bits are from this Viha Go Box set, and like everything in this video, you can find it linked down in the description in case you want to do more research for yourself. Next up, perhaps a bit more niche, but as someone who uses a notebook and pen daily, a writing utensil and paper are always top of mind for me. Obviously, we're not writing an essay with this kit, but for the pen, I've gone with this absolutely tiny micro pen by Bellroy in polished gunmetal steel. They've really made this as heavy as they possibly can given its size, and the satisfying resistant twist to deploy nib writes surprisingly well. That weightiness makes it still feel relatively normal to write with, and although it's of course tiny, is still long enough to rest naturally here, so writing is still balanced and anchored. Of course, with something to write with, we need something to write on, and so peeling off just about 10 sticky note sheets and slapping them towards the left side of the lid means that as a right-handed person, I can make surprisingly comfortable notes all contained within our Altoids tin. And because I'm a bit OCD, just like the PowerPint, the pen's pocket clip goes up and to the left inside of our tin. Next up, let's talk flashlight, and for this particular kit and accommodating the constraints of what's already in the loadout, I have decided to go with the Olight O-Clip for a few reasons. First, let's talk about the whole point of a flashlight, illumination. With one single button, when it's off, pressing and holding it lets out the dimmest moonlight mode with just 1 lumen. From any mode, pressing and holding that button cycles through the remaining outputs. A 10 lumen low mode, a 100 lumen medium mode, and a 300 lumen high mode. More than enough for most typical everyday carry use cases. And double pressing that single button swaps us to a blinking red signal light as well. But the main reason I chose the O-Clip beyond our size considerations is that it's got 2 hands-free mounting options. First, it's magnetic, so as an example, combining that blinking red signal light means on the very off chance your car breaks down at night on a rural road, anchoring magnetically to your car, this will be noticeably visible. Second, it's called the O-Clip because there's a clip, which means whether it's the underside of the brim of a hat when you're working on something in low light, or say on the shoulder strap of a backpack, for many tasks, being able to free up both hands is awesome. And since the rear is magnetic, tucking this torch into the bottom right corner with a magnet adhering to the tin also helps minimize sliding around and making noise. So this area over here, between the PowerPint Multitool and the O-Clip flashlight, I couldn't decide on which option I preferred, but they are both by Victorinox. From a usefulness per cubic inch perspective, the clear winner is this, the Victorinox Classic. It's got 3 pivoting tools, a tiny knife, as well as the file and flathead screwdriver combo on this side, and on the other side, a handy pair of scissors as well. Plus, rotating a bit, we can see the 2 pull blocks on the edge. The beige one reveals their plastic toothpick, and the gray one is their tiny tweezers. I love this thing, and in fact, it's what's anchored to my actual everyday carry keychain. So that's option 1, but option 2, though just 1 tool, might be the most useful one for you, especially since we've already got so many tools on the PowerPint in this kit, and it's this. Victorinox's tiny footprint nail clippers, which are surprisingly effective, especially for those tiny annoying little hangnails, or as someone who works in a workshop environment, even useful for things like certain types of splinters. Point is, I couldn't decide on which one I personally prefer in this kit, but the fact remains that both can comfortably fit between the Multitool and the flashlight. And also, because of this negative space over here makes taking them out very easy too. Just push up against it and pivot out. And again, with the nail clippers, push up against it and pivot out. For now, I'll just get the Victorinox Classic in there and to round things out, a decision maker. And I mean, whether it's with friends, family, coworker, significant other, at some point decisions have to be made, like where to go for dinner. Instead of humming and hawing and debating, in my experience, all it takes is just something to flip. But the problem for our specific kit here is that a coin would make a ton of noise inside of a tin, and so I would just recommend any small RE patch. Decorative PVC on one side for heads, and blank Velcro on the other for tails. And because it's soft and therefore quiet, it can just get tossed on top of these 3 hex bits, and here's the most important part. With the standard Altoids tin, can all confidently click to close. If you've been with me for a bit, you know that at some point in almost all my videos that feature products of any kind, I always discourage knee-jerk purchases because what works for me may not work for you and vice versa. But that sentiment is even more important in this video because, candidly, my own everyday carry kit is so dialed in, so I absolutely will not be using this kit. This really is more so a fun experiment after having seen so many other people's Altoids Tin EDCs and wanting to experiment for myself. For real life use, I guess I could see myself tossing this in the glove compartment of my car, but if it was just hanging out in that glove box, the cost per use would likely end up being very high. And speaking of the notion of cost per use, if you want to see the 5 spending rules that literally save my personal finances, you will definitely want to watch this video right up here. If, however, you want to see my actual everyday carry, this video down here is the one for you. I'll leave them both on screen for a few seconds so you can choose which one to watch next, but while you're deciding, if you got value from this video, consider subscribing and hitting that bell so you'll be notified the moment new videos just like this one drops.